So Kerry and Tami, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Maggie.
Yeah, so as a student myself, I see that we're facing these new realities that months ago, none of us ever would have imagined. So how can we assess our mental well-being during this crazy time?
I mean, this is a great question, Maggie. Thanks for asking. And I think first I want to start off with saying that we all need to really try to understand that we are going to experience various emotions. Most of us now, especially, are experiencing emotions that we may have never thought, we could experience or really not even know what is it. And I think this is a time that is just so new for all of us. And it's important to really kind of be in tune with that. To name a few emotions that someone might be experiencing could be feeling fearful, feeling scared, feeling lonely, angry, sad, and anxious. We hear anxiety often. That definitely is a common emotion, but we certainly have a lot of others. I think it's important to know that it's okay. Like, it's okay to experience emotions. There's nothing wrong with it. It's actually really healthy, believe it or not. I think the assumption is, I'm feeling this emotion. It's a negative thing. It's going to make me feel worse. And actually, in fact, it's the opposite. So I want to really make that clear to all and for everyone to kind of take a little bit of time to think about this. Second of all, I think it's important to really understand we tend to forget about physically what happens. We hear a lot, or we read a lot, or we study with our professors in our courses and hear how mind and body connects. And I think this is a time in our lives right now that all of us in the world really need to kind of be a little bit more in tune to that and help ourselves out. So physically, just some examples of that, you could start to experience some physical changes in your body, such as you might start to get a headache. You might start to feel that your heart is racing. You might start to get a stomach ache or sore muscle aches. And those are really great, like somewhat red flags or signals for us to take a look at, because those can help us really understand, what's going on here. So I think it's really important to listen to that. Listen to your mind, listen to your body. And again, we know that they connect, but sometimes it's hard for us to connect them. So really important, first of all, do not panic. It will be okay. I think that tends to sometimes be that natural response of when we're feeling an emotion that we panic. But it will be okay. And that's definitely something to really think about. I think, we tend to sort of because we're not experiencing a possible emotion or a physical change before, we tend to want to push it away and say, oh boy, I don't want to go there. But try to experience that and try to understand what that is. And again, we're going to talk later. You're not going to be able to do this. You don't have to do this alone. We're going to help you out with this. But really try to be aware of what it is that you might be feeling and what possible physical changes. It is important to try to guide, the intensity of it, because sometimes if an emotion becomes too intense or the physical changes become too intense, then they could really interfere with our daily functioning, which is something that can be problematic. So that is definitely something to really keep an eye on. But I do want to say that the good news is there is just a tremendous amount of support and guidance that we're going to be able to talk about and help you all through it.
Yeah, those are some great points that you just made. What are some ways that students can stay mentally fit during this time?
Okay, well, I'll take a stab at that. First of all, so part of my background is as a yoga instructor. And one of the things I really like about the practice of yoga is that we actually call it a practice, that we acknowledge that every day we roll out our mat or that we go to our workout, that we're different. And the yogi's interpretation is that we're supposed to go through this movement and this life judgment-free. Right? So if today you could balance on one leg and it was amazing, don't be too attached, because tomorrow you might topple over, right? So taking that idea and that principle and then tying it in to what Kerry was saying, it's really important that you give yourself permission to be different every day. One day you might be angry, the next day you might be sad, and the next day you might not be able to stop laughing. And it's okay, right? So it's really important. The first step in all this is to meet yourself where you are, to allow that roller coaster to happen and to give yourself permission, right? I think that's really important. It's okay to feel angry that you're missing out on certain things that were so important to you. It's okay to feel sad and to grieve, right, for losses or things that aren't going to happen. So I think all of that is very important. And just as important is the idea of joy and being happy. So I think we have to remember that we have the capacity to feel these maybe unsettling emotions of the fear and the anxiety and the anger, and then at the same time to find moments of happiness, and that we are big enough to have both of those different feelings, the yin and the yang, exist together. And so you can find something that brings you joy, the simple thing of getting some fresh air and going outside, which I cannot stress enough. If you are able to do that, so important. That could bring you such joy, and then at the same time, you're still holding heaviness, right? So permission is really important. And then again, as a yogi, as my background in fitness, I'm going to say moving is so important for your mental well-being. Carrie did say how the mind and body are connected. Moving, whatever that means for you. And so my daughter doesn't normally live home right now. She's a grown up, and she has her own life. However, she got quarantined with us here in Connecticut, so she's my new roommate, thank God. But she has to be at work, and she has her earbuds, and she's doing her job, but she has to move. Like, if she doesn't move, she literally goes crazy. And she actually has calculated how many laps she needs to make around the dining room table to hit 10,000 steps in the course of a day. So it's really important that you find a way. That's her little thing, that keeps her sane and keeps her going. Everyone is going to have their own thing. And it's important that you take a step back and reflect, like, what is manageable in my space, in my environment, given the weather, given the resources that I have, right? So if you're in a small room versus you're in a house and you have a yard, that's going to be a little bit different person to person. And another thing that I can't stress enough is the idea of establishing a routine. And that's something which I love. If you're practicing that now, and it's something that you can carry through for the rest of your life, and it's going to change as your life changes, but the concept of a routine is very grounding in your body. So when you do have a day that you wake up and maybe it's like harder to get out of bed and you're not feeling great, you could say, okay, wait, but it's 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, I know I have to be up drinking my coffee because I have to log on at 8:30 and I have to do it, right? So that routine can really help us when we're having moments where we're feeling lost or we're not feeling like ourselves. And I think that that's super important to start establishing because it'll help you, forever. And getting enough sleep. I know you had Dana White on and to do these interviews, and she mentioned sleep and obviously nutrition and making sure you have those meals worked in, that you have snacks worked in, that you're paying attention. You're not just mindlessly eating, which we tend to do when we're in our house or in our dorm and we're alone. So kind of having this established time when we're eating, when we're getting sleep, even if it's showering, whatever it is that's going to help ground you is going to be important. And I think the last thing that I would say is some of you are alone and some of you are with people, right? And that's the way it is, how we landed. So the buddy system is always a tried and true help. So if you're looking to put more movement in your day or to stick to a routine or to try to do more self-care, whatever that is, whether it's somebody you live with or someone that you can call, because we are all connected right now virtually. Look at how we're doing this. Getting a buddy to make you accountable is going to be a big step for all of us. That person we can call and check in every day and say, hey, these were the 3 things I said I was going to do and I did them or I didn't do them, or that reminder, right? And even if you can do them together. So if you're not together with your best friend, maybe you can have a scheduled walk where you put in your earbuds and you can go do laps around your house and they're doing laps around their house at the same time and you're having a conversation. These little bits of community are really important because I feel like that's what we're feeling like we're missing. So any way we can sneak in the idea of community with all of this is going to be a help for our mental well-being as well.
Yeah, that is some great advice you just gave. For some people who might need some extra help following that advice, for some people who might feel like all of this is so overwhelming, what resources are available to them and to the rest of the Quinnipiac community?
Yeah, sure. We have a lot of resources, a lot of great health and wellness services. I could start with, we have counseling services. So if a student was interested to talk with a professional therapist, they can contact the counseling center and we could schedule them an appointment. In addition to that, we have our student health center that our medical professionals can answer any type of questions or if they needed to make an appointment. In addition to the services for an appointment, we also have a system where you can contact the phone number and talk to someone 24 hours, 7 days a week if it's a question or you just wanted to talk to someone. So basically within the health and counseling, you have some type of support available 24 hours, 7 days a week, which I think is awesome.
And then if you're looking for ways to move, I know that we have partnered with the Campus Well online news magazine that we are doing, and we put a lot of recordings and resources, everything from fitness classes that we are doing live via Zoom, which you can use IM Leagues to sign up with. And those recordings are loaded into Campus Well. So if it's 9 o'clock at night and you're feeling that you need to do a little stretching, you've sat a lot, you can find a yoga class on there. You can find some breathing practices. You can find some meditations. Our counselors are loading a lot of resources and information on that site as well, even blogs. So you have a lot of opportunity to move. And those fitness classes are really good because once they're recorded, they're on demand. So you can always find a way to move anytime. We have boot camp, we have core power, we have some bar classes, and we have lots of yoga. Things that are easy to do in your home that you don't need a lot of equipment for. And I would also say that outside of Quinnipiac, there's so many resources online between Facebook and different programs that you see out there that are offering a lot of their services for free right now because they know that people are at home and they can't get to the gym or they can't move. So it is a good time for you to surf the net right now and find something that you've always been interested in, because chances are you can find a free program out there so you can start researching it, looking into it, and even ways to move, and it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money.
Yeah, that is so awesome. I'm definitely going to have to go check some of those things out. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I think what you said is going to be really helpful for a lot of students.
Thank you for having me.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maggie.